I'm Christine and welcome to this video where I am going to be talking about the phrases that we use with our 1-year-old daughter that we find to be really helpful. So when we come up with these phrases, we make sure that she really knows and understands the words that we're using, and we try to keep the phrases as simple as possible. We find that these phrases really align with the way that we try to parent, which is incorporating respectful parenting. A really easy way to explain what respectful parenting is just seeing and treating your child as a whole human right from birth. So what that looks like for us with our baby is that we try to give her a lot of time to process things. We explain things to her where it's helpful. And again, with our baby, we really find that she will accept things if we explain things to her and we're really consistent with our expectations and our explanation. We also tried to model these phrases and attitudes with each other as parents in our home, and we really try to put ourselves in our daughter's shoes. So for instance, as a person, you wouldn't want someone to come and just rip something out of your hand without an explanation. So again, just putting ourselves in our daughter's shoes, we try to imagine what sort of situation she might be in and really try to come up with these phrases to help her understand what's happening. The first phrase that we came up with and implemented was, "May I have that, please?" So this was something that we tried out when we realized that she either had something in her hand that she wasn't supposed to, or if we needed to just move on to the next activity. Of course, if it came down to something that was dangerous, we would prioritize her safety and we wouldn't be doing this. With "May I have that, please?" we would give her a lot of time to process everything and give her all the time she needed to eventually put it in our hand, which she did. And then with time, as we were consistent with this phrase and she knew that, we were really expecting that the object needs to come into our hand, it would become faster and faster. So that was a really successful moment. As she would put the object in her hand, we would say then the next phrase that I'm going to talk about, which is, "Let's say bye-bye to that." This was really helpful for her just to have a final bye-bye. Sometimes she gives it a kiss. Sometimes she just does a little wave. But again, it's just a really nice way for her to understand that it's time to say goodbye. Sometimes she would have something in her hand that she really did not want to give back. So that's when we implemented this next phrase, which is, "Let's count to," and then we'll say bye-bye to that. Some people do say that sort of just counting to a number can cause a little bit of anxiety for a child, but for us in our situation, because at the end of us counting to 10 or 5 or whatever it is, because we would let her know that it's time to say goodbye, or you can either put it in my hand or you can put it on the table to say bye-bye. So either just giving her a choice or just explaining what's going to happen when we get to the end of our counting, we find that this really does avoid that whole anxiety situation. The next phrase I'm going to talk about is "first, then." This is something we use with Willa all throughout the day just to help with transitions and giving her an idea of what's to come. So for instance, we'll say something like, "First we'll change your diaper, then we'll wash our hands and have some lunch." We find that this phrase is really helpful for Willa to be involved in her day, to understand what's happening, help with those transitions, instead of just sort of doing things to her or sort of dragging her along throughout her day without an explanation. Another great phrase is "get down safely," or "can you show me how you can get down safely?" And for us, we use from getting down off a couch or, a climbing frame, it's backwards, toes to the ground. And these are words that Willa knows and understands. Because we have been so consistent with this phrase and just helping her to understand that she needs to get down safely when she's on something, now we can just say, even just the word safe or "are you being safe? Can you show us how to be safe?" She understands that she needs to find her way down in a safe way. Another one that we use all the time is "upright on the table." So this is usually during meal times or if she's having a sip of water throughout the day. She has learned what upright looks like. We've shown her, not upside down. And she also knows on the table, putting things on the table. So putting it on the table upright, she has now learned and she knows what we expect of her and her cups. This next phrase I'm going to talk about is find my eyes. So this is something we do with our baby when we really need to tell her something or really need to get her attention. We find that if we say her name over and over and over again, or if you say a child's name over and over again, it's not necessarily as effective in getting their attention. So asking them to find my eyes, it's like a fun little game for them. They immediately try to find your eyes, but it is something that we don't do often. We only use it when we really, really need it, when it's super important. Most of the time with our daughter, we try to give her choices within boundaries and time to process, but sometimes this is not possible. So instead of asking her something like, do you want to go and change your diaper, which will probably result in a no, we use the phrase, it's time to, when we need it. So for instance, it's time to change your diaper, I'm going to pick you up now. This really just gives her sort of the idea and understanding that in this moment and in this situation, we don't really have a choice. Currently, our daughter is 1 year old, so she won't be learning or understanding the concept of sharing fully for a couple of years. But we are helping her to learn about turn taking by using the phrase, my turn, your turn. So this is a really great way to just introduce the concept of turn taking, which will eventually go into sharing. For instance, if we're at the dinner table, I'll say something along the lines of, it's my turn to take some blueberries, now it's your turn to take some blueberries. We can do it during bath time when it's my turn to play with the crayons and then it's your turn to play with the crayons. You can really do it all throughout the day, and it's just a really nice way to learn about taking turns. Something that we just recently introduced was let's take a break or let's take a pause. And this is something that we find is really helpful if things have sort of escalated with regards to our daughter isn't able to sort of calm down to listen to the explanation, or has kind of worked herself up so that she just needs a time to calm down. We will use the phrase now, let's take a break or let's take a pause, sort of remove her from the situation together so that we can calm down. Then we can explain and revisit whatever that situation was. The last thing I want to talk about is choices and making good choices. So this is something that we haven't yet implemented with our baby, but we plan to very soon. It eliminates the idea that, a child is either good or bad. It's nothing to do with them as who they are, but it's more about the choices that they're making. So for instance, we will start to say things like, are you making a good choice? Or that was a really good choice. Let's help you make a good choice. Any of these things work. It's just a really nice way to guide them in the right direction. These are just some of the phrases that we use with our 1 year old right now that we find to be super helpful. We are always revisiting them. We are always coming up with new phrases to help us in new situations. And the main thing that we always consider is our baby, what works for her, what she's learning at the time, what we can expect of her, and how we can help her. None of these are magic words or phrases by any means. I really do feel that the reason why we have had such success with them is because we were consistent and patient. So for instance, the first time that I asked my daughter, may I have that please? It's not like she came running over and put it in my hand straight away. Absolutely not. We had to follow her around. We had to really be patient and really be consistent with our expectation of what was happening at the time and what we, expected of her. So again, the first couple of times we try all these phrases out, certainly there is no immediate success on the first try. It's all about being patient and really being consistent, and that's where you see that it works. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that was helpful. Always reach out if you have any questions or if anything was unclear. I love to hear from you either in the comments below or you can find me on Instagram. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Bye!